Senator Bernie Sanders is preparing to introduce a resolution on Thursday that disapproves of the U.S. sale of $735 million in weapons to Israel. Now, the resolution aims to halt the planned sale to Israel by the Biden administration of JDAMs, or Joint Direct Attack Munitions, and small diameter bombs. Now, many of these bombs, of course, have been used against innocent people in Gaza, killing many people, including children. Now, Senator Sanders said in a statement to the Post, quote, "At a moment when U.S.-made bombs are devastating Gaza and killing women and children, we cannot simply let another huge arms sale go through without even a congressional debate. I believe that the United States must help lead the way to a peaceful and prosperous future for both Israelis and Palestinians. We need to take a hard look at whether the sale of these weapons is actually helping to do that, or whether it is simply fueling conflict." Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Mark Pocan, Rashida Tlaib also introduced a similar resolution on Wednesday, opposing the sale of these weapons to the Israeli government. Ocasio-Cortez said in a statement, quote, "For decades, the U.S. has sold billions of dollars in weaponry to Israel without ever requiring them to respect basic Palestinian rights. In so doing, we have directly contributed to the death, displacement, and disenfranchisement of millions." This is objectively true. What's going on right now, and I know this might seem incredibly harsh, feels like ethnic cleansing to me. There are 2 million Palestinians right now who are living in the world's biggest open-air prison. That cannot stand. That is not good at all. Understand that everything is tightly controlled. Movement is restricted for Palestinians. The majority of people living there are young people. Why is that? That's because a lot of people, so many people have been killed, that you have a majority population of younger people. And so understand, like, I don't want to use the term ethnic cleansing loosely, but what you have is the Israeli government taking land from Palestinians to give to Jewish settlers, kicking people out of their homes. I mean, they say, well, we were here first, so we're going to come in and take your land. Well, understand that if any other country did that, the United States would call that a human rights abuse. I'm just saying. But since Israel is our top ally, well, that's okay. They can get away with it. Also, scary Muslims, Hamas using human shields, and all those excuses. But what we have in reality is an apartheid state terrorizing a minority population who is increasingly desperate. And as a result, there are those who lash out violently, and that's not good either. And of course, that is further used as a justification to bomb, dehumanize, destroy, and remove people that live there. So this is not good, and our money is going to fund that. And has funded that with no problem. Now, no one, before now, nobody cared. Nobody batted an eye. Nobody gave a shit. That is until, of course, people decided, oh, it turns out that what's going on here is not good. That's bad. And it's not just them, by the way. The situation has changed. People are actually starting to see some of the human rights abuses and some disturbing parallels between the far-right government of Benjamin Netanyahu and certain past fascistic governments. And honestly, most people, I don't think most people want to walk down that road. At the end of that road, horrible things happen. And nobody wants that. Nobody paying attention wants to see this happen. And people are seeing what's going on now all over the political spectrum. You even have Geraldo. Geraldo is a self-proclaimed Zionist. He is now sounding the alarm with these weapon sales because that means the United States is complicit. In fact, here was some of that yesterday.
We have dozens of Palestinian children who have been killed in the last week with American bombs. I have no proposed solution to this conflict. I have no proposed solution, better minds than mine. Maybe General Jack Keane can help. And floundered, frustrated by this complexity. I know this, though, Martha, and I want our audience to, the fact that the United States of America is providing Israel many of the weapons Israel is using today to kill Palestinian civilians without even demanding a ceasefire. Tlaib is right. That makes us complicit in an ongoing crime against humanity.
Katie, last thought. Geraldo, that is such a dishonest argument to make, to accuse the Israelis and the Americans of deliberately targeting civilians when we know, we have it on video, we've known this for decades, the Hamas deliberately places military targets in schools, in media buildings, in hospitals, and when the Israelis call them to say, we're going to bomb, we're going to bomb, we are going to, so you're justifying Hamas using human shields in order to make the argument exactly as you are. And you are saying exactly what the argument Hamas makes, which is Israelis kill civilians, which is
an Israeli F-16 going 500 miles an hour is going to kill civilians.
Hamas propaganda. You are repeating Hamas propaganda.
I am deeply experienced in that region. I am a Zionist. I am telling you how I feel. You shoot an artillery round from a cannon, from a tank, and you expect it to land only on the military version of
that's one point, Geraldo, that is valid, but
just one point. Everything else, though, totally valid. Yeah. Kind of based, and an incredibly complicated conversation as well. And so every once in a while, Geraldo surprises me because sometimes he's right. And as some people point out, there's actually been no evidence that there were actual Hamas targets in any of these strikes, especially when it comes to the AP building, right? It was a building with the Associated Press and Al Jazeera. A media building was bombed by the IDF. Even Secretary Tony Blinken, who's an incredibly conservative, warmonger, essentially, is like, no, we couldn't find evidence of that. Sorry, we couldn't find evidence of what the IDF was claiming in this. So then why bomb the building? Maybe it's because they were covering some of the human rights abuses that were going on. Interesting. But understand that, this is kind of a sea change. Years ago, this conversation wouldn't have happened. Not on Fox News. The tide apparently has shifted. And look, maybe I'm too much of an optimist on this, all right? But the way that I see it, the way that Biden has governed, it could be that if there's enough pressure from his own party, he might actually pull it back and add some conditions to any weapons sale or even cancel a weapons sale. Like maybe adding a condition like a ceasefire. And you have support from Democrats to get a ceasefire and to, of course, not sell these weapons. You have Senator Chris Murphy, as well as Todd Young, released a bipartisan statement calling for a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, who is a staunch defender of Israel, signed on to the statement and told reporters that he wanted to see a ceasefire reached quickly, which, by the way, has caused the IDF to increase the frequency of their strikes. Before any sort of ceasefire is reached, they want to make sure to bomb as much as they can. So, yeah. I don't know how this is going to end up. Obviously, I want peace. Yes, I want peace, and I want to make sure Palestinians have human rights. I also want to make sure Israeli citizens and Palestinian citizens are both protected and that there isn't this gigantic conflict anymore. I don't know how to resolve this conflict, which has been going on for a very, very long time. But we've got to do something. The status quo cannot stand. These human rights abuses, as well as the terrorist attacks, they got to stop. They have to stop. And again, even though I don't know what to do, at least you have people, progressives, Bernie Sanders, AOC, Tlaib, and the rest. They're on the right side, and they're sounding the alarm and saying, hey, we can't just let this continue to happen, or we're never going to have peace. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and share with your friends. You can subscribe and help out the channel by becoming a patron. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf, or you can become a channel member as well by hitting the join button below.